So today we're going to start with software wars, software platform wars, sorry. And my moderators, or my panelists want to let you know that they will not be actually fighting today. I know you all came for that, but unfortunately AHR shut that down. They did not allow us to bring the cage in was the problem. But anyway, so we're just going to stick to the software conversation. But I'm super proud to say I feel like this is probably one of the funnest, most fascinating panels I've put together because we have some of the best minds in the industry sitting up here right now in a lot of different ways. And we're going to tap into it here through this session, and we're going to learn more about the future of this industry and how the combination of software hardware is going to continue to evolve and change and become, and as it is now, continue to be a major part of our success in the industry. And of course, with AI coming and cloud and all these new technologies, we're going to move faster into these new platforms than we ever did. And so education is the key, and that's what we're here for today. So hopefully I can educate you all on some cool stuff that's going to be coming up and the way people look at it. So let's get started. I'd like to introduce my panel. So I'm going to start over here with Stephen Holicky. Stephen, would you like to just introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Scott. As Scott indicated, my name is Stephen Holicky. I'm the Chief Product Officer for Tridium. I've been with the organization for about 7 years, and prior to joining Tridium, I was a system integrator, working with multiple products that you'll see here, for example, on the show floor. And I spent my entire life within the building automation industry. So just what an opportunity it is to be alongside these gentlemen, and certainly to be in front of you. Looking forward to the discussion.
Thanks, Stephen. So next to Stephen, John Sublett. John, could you introduce yourself?
I'm John Sublett. I'm the VP of Engineering for Distech Controls. Yay, Distech. I feel like we have about a quarter of the audience today.
Good job,
so
John.
Appreciate that. I started my career at Tridium, actually, so this side of the war. And then not so soon after that, we were acquired by Honeywell, so this side of the war. And then I took a little tour of duty outside of the BMS industry where I really learned a lot of things that were adjacent, but life safety, mission critical, massive scale systems. And so I hope to bring some of that learning to the platform discussion today.
Awesome. Thanks, John. I'd like to just point out some interesting factoid about the panel. As we all know, Tridium Niagara is one of the cornerstones of our industry in terms of software. And what's really fun today is on the panel we have John, who originally wrote it, and then Dave, who bought it, and now Stephen, who's running it, the software. So you see what I did? We have a really neat group here to kind of talk about this. But what's really neat is the history that they have and what they've seen over the years. And I think it's super valuable for all of you to learn from that. So thanks, John. Thanks for being here. Lenny.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm kind of surprised that there are this many people in here. But then I found out that all your folks are here. So, I've been in the industry. I've been in the construction industry all my life. I've had the honor of working as a consulting engineer very early on in my career, and then I worked as a general contractor for a while before I went down the path of controls with John's Controls, and I've held multiple roles within the company, and within what I do today, and I'm involved with 3 main companies right now. So I'm involved with Grinnell, where we have a software platform. I'm involved with BitTracer, which is also a software platform. That's basically tools that are used in the industry. And then we've got KLPD, which is a distribution smart building product distribution company. I was really excited when you asked us, you've set this thing up, because I think one of the things that we need to focus on from a platform standpoint is not just about the products, right? It's also about how we do business, how the industry is evolving, what you need to do. And I'll tell you a very simple story. When I first started working back in Nigeria, way back, I was so excited about Microsoft Project, this early 90s. Every single project I managed, I used Microsoft Project all the way to the end. When I came to the US, I was so excited. I was like, man, we're going to be doing all sorts of stuff with software. and nobody was using Microsoft Project. So with that said, I'll just pass it on to other people. We just have to think beyond just product and platform. That's be everything around it, right?
And that's why you're on the panel, Lenny. So
Thank you.
awesome. Thanks, Lenny. Dave, your introduction, please.
Yes, happy to. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. According to Scott's math, there's like 700 or 800 people here. So let's make sure and relay that story throughout the rest of the event. So my name is Dave Molin. I'm the president of the building management systems business at Honeywell. Ultimately, what that means is I manage all of the product portfolios, all of our brands in all corners of the planet. And so we wake up every morning trying to figure out how to build products that deliver value to our channel partners and our end users alike. And I'll walk through a little bit more of my background in a little while, but again, thanks for coming.
Okay, Kimon, quick introduction, and then we'll get into some of the more detail.
Kimon Onuma. My first name is Greek. Kimon was a Greek general, so I know a few things about wars, I guess. He won the Greco-Persian War, but he also formed a coalition in the Athenian state. My background, I'm an architect. 20 years ago, we built a cloud BIM platform because there wasn't anything out there to connect to things. And so it's really interesting to kind of connect the dots between anything. That's my goal.
Awesome. Yeah, Kimon is a true data guy from the BIM modeling industry. And he's focused on a different digital future for all of us. So I think he's going to bring a really neat perspective to the conversation. So thanks for being here, all of you guys. So when we prepared, we talked a little bit about this, and some of the I know John and Kimon have some stuff they'd like to share. So. In terms of their view of software platforms and where it's going and things like that. So John, I'm gonna start with you. If you'd actually like to come up to the podium here, and feel free, you can just cycle through your slides. Yes, you can talk right in the mic.
Thank you. So I actually am on that slide. I know it's hard to tell, but I was shamed into updating my LinkedIn photo. I was shamed into, so my new LinkedIn photo is that one. And it's much more reminiscent of the person that you see before you. I do remember that other fellow, though. I've already described this, so I won't get too far into this particular one. But I think career journey-wise, I'm pretty happy for where I am today with where I've been. Lots of learnings, and a big part of that, the foundation of my career started in BMS with Tridium, and then moving into some other adjacencies was actually quite educational, and that was really, what does it mean when things can't fail? So a lot of mission critical, life safety, police, fire, EMS, and then very large scale. I spent some time in residential where the systems are upside down relative to buildings. So in buildings, you've got tons and tons of complexity at the edge and maybe fewer endpoints if you think of a site as an endpoint, where you move to residential and it's much, much less complexity at the edge, but millions and millions of connected things. So happy to bring that experience to the industry. Now with Distech and Acuity, like everybody else, we think about things a little bit differently. And one of the really nice things about our edge with cloud vision here is being part of Acuity. We have a portfolio of content, let's say, in a building. So we have lighting, we have BMS, we recently have AV, and when you start to put all of those together and get the data from those systems, you really get a very good idea about what's happening in a building. And so when you think about those systems and the coverage of square footage and space across Acuity and the portfolio, putting those things together under a common platform, creative people can do interesting things when you put those kinds of things together. So that's the excitement for me, is being part of the Acuity and Distech portfolio and family now. From a platform perspective, we are a global company. The reason I share this is more, again, from the platform piece. So if you think about global reach, there are differences across the globe on how you apply these solutions. And so the platforms that you bring to bear are very important, and how they go together is very important, and their adaptability to local needs is very important. So this is an area where we're having a lot of success at Distech, and I think it is because of the flexibility of the platforms that we bring together. So on our front, we really think, you'll hear a lot from the Distech folks and the Acuity folks around edge with cloud. And again, when you start to glue platforms together, it's important that they be independent. Because as you go across any kind of solution space, people are going to have their opinions on every layer of the architecture. You're going to encounter different things that you didn't expect. I mean, I think we can all agree that when you go into a building, what do you hear? They're all snowflakes. That's generally true. And so you can kind of get the mainstream pieces, but then you're always going to have to handle those exceptional cases. So openness for integration, openness of protocol, and flexibility of where you put your intelligence. And so that's one of the big things that we do in our Eclipse platform is, it's built so that you don't have to know where the intelligence belongs. When you get into a particular solution, our entire portfolio actually has the same level of capabilities and capacity all the way to the edge. A little bit different processor speeds, but the same architecture. And what that means as a solution provider is you have flexibility. And so that's what you'll hear a lot from me today on the panel is, how do you reuse and build off a solid foundation, but still have the flexibility on a day-to-day basis to solve the problems that you're encountering, because you don't know what they're going to be a lot of times until you get there. On our front, we have multiple platforms. Actually, I'll skip to this slide. So the platform wars piece, I thought, Scott being provocative with that. I do quite a bit struggle with the concept that there's a platform war. Maybe we'll get into today as what do you define as a platform? We have multiple platforms today, and we have Niagara 4, soon to be Niagara 5 that we build on and around. We have our own platforms in Eclipse, at the edge, Atrius facilities, in the cloud. And then I sort of mentioned this before, on the Acuity side, we have a foundational platform that all of our applications are built on, common cloud for Acuity called Data Lab. And so, the value of a platform, yes, it's the interfaces, it's the quality, it's the it's the integrations, but it's also that openness, and it's and it's the combination of those things, and then it's the data that's in it. So I think, that's, I'm sure, what we're going to spend half of our time talking about today is how do you get the data and make use of it, and that's what the platforms are going to do for you. So I'll stop there because I see my bell ringing, but looking forward to the discussion.
Thanks, John. And it's really a great introduction to what we're going to talk about. And I think John does a nice job of helping us all understand that the platforms that we're using are not just a single product or a single software or anything like that. They're a combination of software, hardware, and people. And processes, right? So as an industry, that's what we're challenged with when we implement, when we use the products, when we combine them and things like that. So thank you for that, John. That was good. And then, so now I'm going to have Kimon come up, and he's going to give us a little broader perspective on the same topic. Kimon, come on up.
Thank you. Sit forward here. Yeah. Okay, so I already introduced myself as the general, right? There's actually a Greek ship, a warship called Kimon, but I'm not going to be talking about war. I'm going to be talking about the peace. We're looking for peace, I think. Peace, we can all prosper in times of peace, and the way to prosper is to have these platforms connect to each other regardless of what they are. Not have a centralized one, but have a semantic peace. The Coalition for Smarter Buildings, along with a lot of partners, are building this piece, and you can be part of it. One of the stories is the PAE Living Buildings, one of the most amazing buildings, 20 EUI, zero energy, net zero water, and a lot of other things. Amazing platform with about 10 different other platforms in the building. It got all kinds of awards. None of the platforms talk to each other. Each platform on its own was amazing, but they didn't talk to each other. We've heard that story, right? That's the challenge, but that's the huge opportunity because we in the room know how to do this. And now AI is knocking on the door and there's no more time. So things are changing very fast. We heard that yesterday. This is the BIM. So BIM is our interface to the user interface to our world is BIM and digital twins. It's a context. If we don't have context, we can't say, why is it hot in this room? We might be talking about the next room, right? They had an amazing model, amazing BIM, no data, no context, a little bit of data. They had engineering drawings that looked like this that had all the embedded information and the rules and the logic of why it was engineered like that. They had Excel files with a ton of data, none of them talking to each other. So from the design and construction side, there are huge platform issues, platform wars, just on the building side. Now layer building automation systems into that. You can't have systems talking to context unless you can talk to each other. And that is my goal, connecting the buildings and the context to the amazing systems that are out there so we can have a conversation. So in the C4SB project, this happened last year at AHR, we met them, we started decomposing the platforms to get to the data, to build a graph model that said this is connected to that. A battery's connected to the PV on the roof, is connected to this room, is connected to the utility grid. Then we can start querying. This is what AI likes. AI loves graph models. It does not hallucinate if it knows the path. If it doesn't know the path, it'll make it up. I'll say, why is it hot in this room? It'll say, because the next room temperature is set to this, right? And we'll run with that. Simple data, trained AI with context and graph models built on open standards, So platform wars are islands and spaghetti code. In Vegas, we're connecting the dots, we're creating bridges. We've created a semantic bridge as part of the C4SB project as an open source connection to connect platforms. Then last week with Facile, who you heard from yesterday, they had a platform called Facile at Northgate Market. We said, let's connect to your platform. In a week, we created a digital twin using this architecture, connecting to a BIM, sensors, triggering work orders, triggering this, so the ice cream won't freeze. One simple use case. You keep it simple and you scale it. When you scale it, you can take over the world, and AI loves scaling. The bridging is what's going to get us there, and you are in the room, so you're going to be part of that story, because the war is with the outside world that doesn't get this, and we need to communicate this message. It's so critical because there's no time. AI wants it, the C-suite wants it, we know how to do it. So let's get to the work. So, last slide, same path. The PAE building, 1 year, because we decomposed and understood the platform. We captured it in an open source semantic graph, and then we repeated it in a week. You scale it by doing it fast, by not throwing away our knowledge away, and giving value back to owners who are going to start demanding this type of pace. That is the war. We're all part of it. Thank you.
Very cool. Make sure I'm on the right slide. So, I'm having oh, there we go. Got it. Okay, cool. All right. So, Kimon, that was awesome. Thank you so much. So, hopefully that kind of broadened the horizons of what we're talking about here, right? So we live in the BAS industry maybe, and we're looking at one set of data. And as you look out at other parts of the building, these platforms just keep extending and extending and extending. And it's kind of like Kimon showed this never-ending view of all these different connected platforms. So with that being said, I guess we should move it over to Tridium, right? Because Niagara is essentially in the BAS industry a key platform, right, for us as we've seen a lot of our the different manufacturers use it, and we got Steven here. So if you're ready, Steven, did you want to talk about your view of platforms, and then I got some questions about it.
Sounds perfect to me.
All right, so go ahead.
So one thing we've talked about, the war. We said there's no war here. There's nobody fighting. But I think you are. You're the ones that are in the trenches. We are so many layers abstracted from the building owners that you all serve, if indeed you are a system integrator. You're the ones that are sweating those solutions, sitting on the 5-gallon paint bucket in the mechanical room, maybe even working through the night. It's important that when you are the ones that are delivering the solution to the customer, that you have a product that enables you to be successful in how you deliver that job and how you enable that building owner to achieve the outcomes that they've always desired to make. And The platform has to be, of course, flexible to the point that, as John indicated, not every building looks the same. Not every region looks the same. Every single country in the world is going to have their own regulations insofar as the buildings need to operate, perhaps energy efficiency standards and things like that. And so given that, you have to have the flexibility on how you get that implemented. And that has been at the heart of what the Niagara Framework has done for so many years. One of my favorite things to say, Scott, is that the product does nothing when it ships. You all are responsible for molding it into something that delights the building owner, that helps you increase your margins for every project. The war exists at the front lines that you are all attacking on a day-to-day. As Tridium, we want to be here to ensure that you are successful in how you wage those battles. That means if you have tasks that are taking 2 hours, we want to take them down to 30 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. We also want to ensure that you have the right security out of the gate. So that means the first time you use the product, it is secure by default. That means when you have a building owner going through the commissioning process, they're looking to see whether what you have implemented has met that basis of design, that spec. Well, you started from scratch on the right foot. And then, of course, you have all of these tools within the product that's going to be able to enable you to be successful with your business and to help to drive the industry forward. But really what it comes down to, it's the identity that you can achieve as an installer, the identity you can realize as a building owner when you're using the Niagara Framework to solve all those problems that you're dealing with on a day-to-day.
Yeah, and Stephen brings up a great point, and that's one of the, a platform in our industry, especially because we're a bunch of small businesses that have to define ourselves with our customers in individual ways, and platforms that allow us to do that, allow us to really bring our identity, our company identity through the software platform is important. And Niagara, of course, and Stephen's done a great job of that, giving us that capability. And Stephen, with that being said, of course, the Niagara Framework can do so many different things. What are some of the biggest pressures right now on you to modify the Niagara Framework to do? Like what is the market really for, pushing your platform to do that it doesn't do today?
Well, security is going to be one of those just never-ending battles, for example, since we're here talking about wars. The threat landscape changes on a day-to-day. And because of that, we're being pushed to ensure that, number one, it's secure. Again, if you can't trust that data, if it can be compromised at any one time, then everything that we're doing, everything that we're signing up for is pretty much null and void. What's the point, right? And so security is one of those things that's going to continue to drive our product forward. And Scott, there's a lot of baggage that we've brought for many years. You've got a platform that's been around for 20 years plus, actually. Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that we've carried that functionality forward because, again, as I mentioned, the product does nothing when we ship it. And you all have enjoyed being able to use certain functions within the product itself to help you deliver the solution to the building owner. And so we're carrying all that forward. And so how you all interact with the product is one of those things that we're really focusing on right now. We are completely reskinning the product. We also want to give you the ability to take those visualizations that you might be building on top of Niagara and create something that delights an end customer. And then, of course, how could I be sitting on a panel if I didn't say AI? What are we doing, right? I mean, you can't. And so I think the industry is going to be demanding something from Tridium that really reflects the fundamental nature of how you have deployed the product. And so that doesn't mean that we're effectively giving you the AI, but allowing you to use it how you would like and how the building owner desires. And so I think we've got visualization, security, and then certainly taking advantage of the emerging trends that AI has certainly has brought to the table.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Stephen. All right, let's move it down to Lenny. You ready, Lenny? Yeah. All right, Lenny, if you'd like to do an introduction, more about your view of platforms and how you work with them, and a little bit more about the platforms that you've brought to market.
Definitely. So there's a saying, I think many of you have heard it, and if you reflect on it for a while, you will understand exactly how you need to view platforms, right? There's this saying that says, no man ever walks into the same river twice, because the man's no longer the same, and the river is not the same either, because it's gone by, right? Same thing with us. With buildings, no man ever enters into the same building twice. The building's no longer the same, and that man's no longer the same. It could be a woman, it could be a man, and they all have different roles. So when I think about platforms, I go more with the viewpoint, there are going to be lots of platforms, and you need to make sure you can get all of them to communicate. That's the opinion I have. And I don't really think of it as a war unless you're a direct competitor, whereby there are two people building platforms, and they both have the same viewpoint, and they have the same approach. So what am I talking about? Let me just put it, we all live in buildings. We are all in buildings today. How is a building built? We go through a design phase, consulting engineers are involved. Then you go through construction phase, contractors and manufacturers are involved. And then you go to the service phase. And at the service phase, what do you have? You have the building owner, and all of a sudden he's got different types of occupants in there, and he needs to serve those occupants, right? So when you think about a platform, are you viewing it from a standpoint as in, I'm just going to build an automation system or a control system? And things have also evolved, so I want you guys to be very careful about the words you use. We talk about building automation systems. Frankly speaking, when we start talking about control systems, HVAC, it's not an automation system, it's a control system. Now you have all sorts of other technologies that have come in. So a true building automation system has to be one that connects with a lot of other things. So to me, it all depends on what direction and what angle you come from, right? So in the case of, I'll talk about Grinnell, for instance. In the case of Grinnell, what we do, we take it from the viewpoint of the occupant. What does that occupant want to do? Are you an employee? Are you a customer? Are you in a restaurant? Are you in a school system? And what do they want out of that building? So when they walk into the building, what can you enable things to happen? And it goes beyond just the temperature controls, right? So you got to think about it from that standpoint. And I'm just going to throw something else out to the whole crowd here. If you've been in the industry long enough, and I think everybody on this panel has been in the industry long enough, we all remember the pneumatic days, right? And then right after pneumatics, we went to DDC, and that's when the name got coined, building automation system, right? And we've stuck with that thing all the way through, but it has actually evolved back to being a building control system, essentially, right? And I think there are lots of opportunities in the industry to disrupt the industry. So I'll just throw a couple of things out there. Consulting engineers, there are probably a lot of consulting engineers in here. How do you guys do your jobs today, right? Has it changed from when it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago? Are there opportunities to disrupt the way you do things? And typically what tends to happen is you start working, you start off with something, and if you're going to change stuff, you start off with that stuff and you keep adding on and adding on and adding on. At this point in time in our lives and in technology, it's time to take a clean sheet approach. Mm-hmm. With all the technologies out there today, if I was a consulting engineer, how would I do my work? With all the information that's available to me, and now there's AI available to me, how would a consulting engineer operate? And I can tell you, there's a lot of opportunities just right there. So I'll just put that out there for everyone.
Yeah, and Lenny, with Grinnell, like you're, it's a platform of platforms, right? Like when the way you go to market, could you explain that concept of how your product works that way?
Yeah, definitely. So with Grinnell, we're working directly with building owners, right? And we're trying to understand their business. What are they trying to do? And we've created an open platform. It's cloud native, and we're able to tie into multiple systems. So it goes beyond the control systems. We connect to POS systems. If it's a restaurant, we connect to POS systems, right? If it's a restaurant and they've got, deep fryers out there and they got freezers out there, you can slap IoT sensors on there, and we help them monitor that. If there is a Coke machine, we can connect through APIs to it, and we tell them if I'm driving up to a Burger King or a McDonald's, I can tell them when they have vanilla versus chocolate ice cream and how long it's going to take, right? So you got to think about it from that standpoint. And the way we serve our customers is twofold. The guy that walks in a restaurant, he's an employee. What does he care about? He wants that fryer to be working. He wants that freezer, the food to be safe. The restaurant owner himself is thinking about it and saying, hey, I want to make sure I don't poison all my customers. So the temperature in the freezer has to be, so he gets a different platform. So each user gets a different interface depending on what they're trying to do. Yeah, that's kind of the approach we take, So it's not just product-centric. It's more or less, what does the building do? And the people in that building, how do we connect them and make their lives better?
Yeah, and I think, Lenny, you'd agree what's really fun is with the digitization of all the different platforms inside of the building and being able to combine them, you're able to bring new value to the building owners that they didn't, that no one thought you could. It's like a playground of new applications for the building owner once you combine all that data. Isn't that correct?
Yep. That's absolutely right. So I'll give you an example, right? I don't know if anybody here has got a Subway franchise. No, really? so yeah, right. So I mean, you think about most of the restaurants out there. The franchise owners have to think about how do I make sure the food's safe, right? So they actually have inspectors going out there, inspecting each of the franchises one by one and doing spot inspections. Is that table on which they prepare the stuff, is it at the right temperature? The salad was installed at the right, and they have these inspectors. Well, with IoT now, what can you do? You can connect all these things. You don't have to do a spot inspection. You have continuous inspection. And the minute something goes down a path whereby it is no longer going to be safe, as in you see the temperature is rising slowly, you can go ahead and take corrective action before it actually hits a critical point, right? So that's one example, right? But yeah, you bring value that you didn't realize was there. And then those employees, so some people think right off the bat, oh, you're eliminating jobs. You're not. Absolutely not. What's going to end up happening is if that company is smart, they will use those existing employees to add more value to their customers. And that's what they should be doing. Yeah. So one should not be scared that, hey, AI is going to take jobs. No. What it does is it helps you so you're more efficient, and then you can redeploy your resources into other things that add even more value.
Awesome. Thank you, Lenny. Well, Dave, you knew I was going to save you for last because of your, comment you made, so.
Terrific.
Oh, no, we're super happy to have Dave here. So, Dave, give us that big, broad perspective on this topic, if you would.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I think all the comments here have been generally spot on. I think there's much more agreement than disagreement. So sorry, there's going to be no battle royal today. But, I'm fortunate to lead a business with lots of scale and lots of geographic reach. And one thing that I've learned as I've traveled around the world is, and you all feel this acutely, is the lack of skilled labor. It's not so much the lack of labor in some parts of the world, but it is the lack of skilled labor. That's a really important distinction. And as we talk about platforms and what they might be able to do serving our building owner customers going forward, one thing that we postulated early on is, we're going to use AI to optimize buildings. Like, that's the most obvious use case on the planet, but that was where we wanted to start. We went out to talk to customers around the world. And they said, yeah, the optimization thing is interesting, and that's terrific, and I'm glad you're working on that, but could you help us along the way? Like, could you help me be more productive? Could you help my construction process have less risk? So we've pivoted a little bit and are building a toolkit for system integrators specifically to shorten the amount of effort, time, labor cost from the time that you get a solicitation to bid a project to the time you turn it over to the either to the mechanical or the building owner themselves. And in the early kind of inferences from the tools that we built using AI and the feedback from customers is round numbers, we can save about 20% of labor time by using these kind of tools that are ultimately intended to make you more productive and effective in your jobs. We stumbled across it, honestly. It was something we were looking for a different answer from our customers when we went out to talk to them, and they said, no, you're going the wrong way. Yes, that's important. It's not unimportant. But if you can help us do more jobs, we'll probably be more loyal to you. If you can help us do more jobs reliably, we're going to make more money and be in a better financial position to continue to grow our business. And so the use of AI, the number of use cases, don't even bother trying to count, honestly. The hardest thing that we have to focus on is prioritizing the universe of things that we could do, leveraging AI. Make sure we're working on the things that are needle movers for all of you first. And so that's where our focus is. You're going to see tools in Niagara 5 that address that. I'm sure that the other panelists on the dais here would have similar thoughts and opinions. But this is such a cool time in our industry. Like I tell people, like, when HVAC was invented, it was on-off switches. And then somebody invented the time clock that automated the on-off. And then we went to pneumatics. And then we went to DDC. And then we went to open systems. And now we're in the world of AI. And all of us get to live through this at a time that is really unprecedented. We're seeing, when we turn on an AI engine in our systems and watch the recommendation it makes, we're like, why is it doing that? I would have never thought of that. No, I've never seen a sequence doing what the AI is doing. And all of a sudden, we're like, holy crap, it's working better than the original sequence was designed. So prepare yourselves to be amazed, to be skeptical about what's happening, but it's an amazing journey, and we're in the early innings, honestly, of it, but it's coming.
Oh, that's awesome, Dave. Thank you. Dave, quick question. So we were together like through some of these phases you mentioned, especially the open systems and things like that. And remember how long it took, John? Remember? Like my first year, I think we sold like 5 Jaces, and you know what I mean? Like it was a slow roll, right? You guys remember? I mean, in some markets, it's still not really widely accepted. It's still new to some markets even. And this is 20 years later? Dave, could you speak to like the difference of what this trend will be like in terms of the timing of it?
Yeah, it's coming faster than even the most, ambitious agendas might dictate. It is, it's really incredible. Like I've been in this industry for 33 years. And I feel like until the last 2 years, like I've seen everything. I was wrong. It's not even, it's indescribable for all of you to imagine what the manufacturers are going through right now, trying to like point this AI engine in the right direction so that we can get the kind of outcomes that we're asking for. We have one other thing I also want to reinforce is that the journey to like truly autonomous buildings start with those buildings being connected to a cloud. As we start to harvest the data, there's a number of software-based, cloud-connected platforms on the stage here. But at the same time, we know there are some customers that simply won't tolerate that, right? So that forces the manufacturers like us to be maybe more clever, and we've entered into an agreement with NVIDIA and are building a box in our booth that is going to run the LLM right on the local instance in the building. And then the LLM itself can occasionally connect to the cloud if the building owner wants to update that LLM to take advantage of all the kind of public learnings of building optimization strategies. We can do that. But there are still a lot of companies, ironically, even data centers, that are like, oh no, we don't want our data, going to the cloud, even if it's my cloud. That's a reality. So it is only, I would say the pace of change is only accelerating. That's a long answer to a question.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. That was awesome. So you brought up AI, he dropped the bomb, so we're going to have to stay on it. And I saw John, he was like, I got something to say. So, all right, Mr. Sublett, give us your thoughts on this topic.
So I think we can all agree that the buildings industry moves at light speed. Yep. We can, no, but all seriousness. So, I mean, certainly the pace is picking up, but I do think that we risk fast forwarding a little too fast because of that productivity piece. So we're asking, all of us up here are providing technologies, and we're asking for lots and lots of work. And the reason we're asking for that work is the fast forward. When you look to the end and you have a system, like Kimon said, that has all the context, magic can happen. But it takes a lot of work today to create that context. Mm-hmm. So back to the productivity piece, what does it actually mean, and how do we enable that productivity? And so that's the direction that we're headed, and it sounds like even from a walk of the floor, everyone is heading in a similar direction. It's how do we standardize things but not over-standardize them? Mm-hmm. And then how do you have those descriptions of what's happening as close to the edge as you can, so that when you start to bring those controls and actuation and sensing up, it comes up with a description of what's happening. And so
Gotcha.
That's why we are so focused on what are the capabilities at the far edge, because everything changes all the time. The systems need to go together, and when they do go together, they need to snap together. Otherwise, it's not worth it. So we're asking for a lot of work that's never going to happen. And I think that's really what Dave is getting at too, is that if we don't solve the productivity problem, we don't ever get to the magic at the end.
Yeah, we have a small problem, which is the lack of digitization of the data in most of the buildings. And it's a problem, but also a huge opportunity, everybody, because as these guys are talking, the new capabilities, we have to actually connect all the systems. They have to work right. And there are so many of these systems that will need to be modernized, updated in the next 10 years to meet to get the full value out of the platforms that are coming, as you guys are hearing now. And John mentioned what I like is that's true. It's like, I've heard this about AI. You got to build tools that the tools will then build the industry for you, right? That's sort of the approach that people take.
I think the misperception of AI is that it's going to restore order from chaos. Right? It's like, so an LLM doesn't take in random everything. There's structure. I mean, if you're looking at a ChatGPT, it can do what it can do because it understands the language and the language has structure. And so it's putting structure out the other side. So that's the problem at hand right now, is we need to create enough structure. It'll be less because AI has the capability of interpreting and understanding a little better because it has so much access to so much other context. But we actually have to create that structure coming in so that we can get non-chaos coming out. I really like what Kimon said about the paths and hallucination. So if you can put AI kind of in the right size box to avoid hallucination, then you get that productivity. Because otherwise, when it's hallucinating, you still need the experts to go look and make sure that it hasn't hallucinated something that's going to damage your outcome.
That's awesome. Okay, Stephen, quick question for you on AI. 3 years from now, Niagara 5's out, it's running. What can we...
Scott, it better be fewer than 3 years.
Well, Dave, I said it's out and running. Don't forget our beta cycle. Anyways, no, kidding. 22 revisions later. No. Anyways, Stephen, my question for you, a couple years down the road, what is AI going to look like in Niagara? How is Niagara going to look different because of AI?
All right, I'm going to say something a little provocative. What's a control loop point? You set certain parameters, and what is that valve or that actuation device doing? It's operating effectively, independently, without a human, right? This industry has introduced multiple forms of automation. What's the A in the BAS stand for? Automation. But what's the fundamental impediment from a building owner realizing some of the benefits that they were sold when they put that BAS in?
They have to turn it on.
Operator override. That's the issue. It's going to continue to be an impediment as we roll this out. If you don't have a building technician that can trust a damn control loop point, then I know you know how to program if you're a system integrator. What do you think they're going to do when it's like, no. Your chilled water supply temperature should be 48 degrees, not 44. Or this valve should not be at 100%. You should allow the loop point to control it. There is a human element associated to the way that we control buildings today that impacts the way or the efficacy of the automation systems, the real value that justified its installation in the first place. And as we start to enjoy some of the benefits that incorporating language models into our workflows, there's a significant maturation process, but there's a human element that is also part of this larger paradigm that we're going to have to focus on. Now, when it comes to Tridium, what we're going to do is we're going to keep it true to the framework. We want to give you the hooks to be able to integrate, for example, with a language model. And what does that mean? Okay, well, you've heard probably the Model Context Protocol, MCP. And MCP is something that multiple products use. In fact, as I look down the panel here, Kimon, Autodesk, Tandem, I'm sure you have the same thing, they have an MCP service that they offer. So think about this. You're going to have products that are going to start come to the market. Everybody's going to have their own MCP service. And the idea is that it's providing structured content to the model so that you can actually incorporate multiple systems all together. I mean, I love what Kimon just mentioned because I'm an optimist. I see the value. I see the potential that we're all going to be able to realize when we bring all these things together. And I do think that language models is going to be one of those key enablers. So when it comes to Tridium, what we're going to do, it's going to give you, really stay true to that whole mission statement, that value prop that we've been able to keep for years and years. And we'll give you the ability to be able to integrate with whatever the hell you need to make sure that you're delivering on your promises, your goals to the building owner. And then, of course, you're using that to increase your margins per project. And then again, when these systems are able to operate or interoperate rather in a structured fashion, then I think we're going to get to the point where this operator reticence is going to slowly but surely kind of be addressed. Because if I can model it in the BIM, I can have at least some assuredness that, okay, if I do this, I expect this outcome to occur. Okay, now you let it happen in the building automation system. The idea is that the building information model can actually realize what's being done on the building automation side so that it can improve its efficacy on the output side. So I really see a beautiful world emerging, but certainly it's going to take a little bit of time. But from a Tridium perspective, we're about enablement, and that we're going to keep true to that mission.
Yeah, cool. And that makes a lot of sense. So we'll stick on the AI topic to kind of close this out, to keep going. Lenny, do you want to share some of your thoughts on how it's going to affect your business as you look at it?
Yeah, definitely. So I go back to concepts, right? Always go back to concepts. I'm very, very, very much customer focused when it comes to things. I know there are a lot of things that we think are going to be cool. I know there are lots of things that we want to do because it's really cool, but does the customer really care, right? I'll give you an example. Personally speaking, right? I'll give you an example. I know a lot about the stars, constellations. I can go out at night and I'll point every single one of them. I'll rattle them out to you. I'll tell you what they are. You think anybody really cares? If I talked about that, I wouldn't be married, Scott. I'll start off with that, right?
Yeah, I can understand.
You can understand that, right?
Yep.
So you've got to think about it from the customer standpoint. What is it and how is it going to help them? So I'll use a couple of examples, right? And this is already working. These are not, guesswork here. So BitTracer, which is a software platform that a lot of contractors use today. They use it for estimating, project management, all of that stuff. One of the things with estimating is it takes a while to count stuff on drawings, right? So if I have a big building and I'm out there trying to, let's just think about everything building automation. Controls is one thing that's easy. VAV boxes, air handling units, chiller, done. What about the registers? What about the grills? There's somebody there just highlighting every single drawing one by one and then counting at the bottom of the page, right? Well, we have a project takeoff tool that physically does that. And we thought the AI engine to do it. So literally, I can take any drawing that's out there, and I can highlight a couple of symbols, and it just goes and counts it all up. And because we also do estimating, because we have the ecosystem all covered, now I can literally just put in a drawing, and it kicks out a proposal, boom. It goes all the way through. Not only does it count, it actually picks the right products, prices it out, kicks a proposal. We have an engineering tool that is connected to the proposal and the estimate. So at that time, the submittal itself is done. It picks up the cut sheets from each of those manufacturers that are there. And if I picked a RIB U1C, everybody knows what that relay is. It goes to the cut sheet, it highlights it. So literally, I can take a set of drawings and I have all the submittals done, the engineering done, everything done. So that's how it works. So that is of value to a contractor.
Yeah.
So you've got to think about it from that standpoint, right? So I'll go to building platforms, and I'll talk about value there. One of the biggest problems that facility managers and building owners have, we have great systems. We have great control systems. And we've got lots of check engine lights. So a facility guy comes into the building, what does he see? He's got 10,000 alarms. Because somebody decided that every hour, if the temperature is not right, I'm going to kick off another alarm, right? So what does he do? He's there, he's overwhelmed. He doesn't even know where to start from. So we've got an AI engine within Grinnell, and what it does is runs through the whole system. And what it does is analyzes all the air handling units, analyzes the chiller, analyzes all the VAV boxes. And then it goes ahead and says, all these VAV boxes in these 3 zones are all working fine. That one, there's one VAV box right at the end that's not keeping up. Most of the time, facility guys go to that VAV box, they're trying to crank up the temperature, trying to get to it. but it could be the coil in your air handling unit that's blocked and you're not getting enough airflow all the way down there.
Sure.
Right? So it's able to identify that, it's able to pinpoint it, so he can have a report at that level saying, hey, these are all the key things you need to go fix first before you go to the vehicle. So it's possible, it is working, and you just need to understand from the customer's perspective, where is the value? And once they have the value, they adopt it, they use it. Otherwise, you can build the coolest thing that can do so many complex things, and it's not going to be of any value, and nobody wants to use it. And to build something that's really complex and breaks, it takes a lot of time. So pick out the simple things that can be done and knock it out, right?
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Lenny. I got to kick it over to Kimon before we run out of time. Kimon, because I want to get a couple audience questions. So if you could,
I'll talk about artificial intelligence. Let's just start with intelligence itself. Before AI came along, we were all hallucinating because we didn't have good information. And I worked with owners that have been pissed off for years and saying, why can't we get this information from our buildings? But they say, well, that's the way it is. The systems can't talk. Now AI is saying to the owners, go talk to your building and say, why can't we talk to our building and ask about that VAV? You know why? Because I'm an architect and I've seen this even recently. The industry is taking this data, this intelligence, and flattening it into documents, forcing us to create AI to reverse engineer the engineering that was done in turn, using a lot of data centers. So we're creative. We can solve that problem, right? But the industry, we're flattening our information and we're turning it into Greek, into very many languages in Greek, and not giving it back to the owners. And the owners are pissed, I can tell you that, which means the people that can fix this with AI, with whatever, but you have to have the foundation, and that's what we all have, that foundation. So before we talk about AI, and we use AI all the time, that node thing that I showed you, once you get it into that format, you don't have to say, what is that thing and what does it do? You ask that question and it goes queries the rest of the network. If you're not connected to the network, you're not part of the conversation. If you hide your data in code and don't give a translator and charge a lot of money for it, you're not going to be part of that conversation. Simple as that. And I'm telling owners that exact thing. We're putting it in their roadmaps, saying, go work with the people that speak your language. And AI is part of that conversation. And it's amazing how fast it's pushing the conversation, like you presented yesterday, too.
Yeah.
So let's use that as a reason to shift this industry. And it's not going to be, actually it is easy. It's difficult and it's easy because we can pick the pieces like we talked about. We don't have to solve everything. If you try and solve everything, nothing will get solved. But if you break it down into small pieces and start incrementally building it, and all of a sudden it just takes off. It just literally takes off. Mm-hmm. And that's the exciting part about all this, because we're sitting right in the middle of it. Look at this conference. It's amazing. That's why I'm here.
That's awesome, Kimon. And I like Kimon's perspective. He's not in the BAS industry. He's an architect. So he's talking to us like as an architect. And what he's saying to us is simple. And I like the way he's saying it. Look, if your system doesn't talk, it won't play an AI. So, it's a common thing that, we're all going to bump into in this industry. I think it's a great opportunity because the value we're going to get out of AI will certainly pay for the connection to the digital infrastructure. No question. I mean, the paybacks will be, instantaneous, I'm sure, with some of the stuff we heard today. So that was fantastic. We have just a few more minutes. I'd like to open it up to any audience questions at this time. And I got one right over there.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for the panel. It was wonderful. I think we all agree that platforms are enabled by data. And I think the Greek general actually highlighted that in his talk. But I think we are making a couple of very false assumptions. First one, we are assuming that the data that we need is only from the building, which is not true. You actually need data from everywhere. Second, we believe that data is readily available, which is absolutely not true. We are just ignoring cybersecurity threats and how you get the data, how you add context to it. So I'm just wondering, what is everybody's thoughts on data accessibility and data connectivity when it comes to platforms?
Thank you. That's a great question. Who wants to start? Dave?
Yeah, I'll start. And I'm not going to diminish the reality that it's a challenge for sure. But one of the great things that, again, because of the footprint of Honeywell and the footprint that Acuity has, is multiple systems in these buildings. We make fire and life safety systems, we make security and access solution systems, and we make the traditional kind of building management solutions as well. So we are building an ontology that represents all of the subsystems in a building that we would naturally connect to, whether it's an IT device or whether it's a smoke detector doing self-testing, or whether it's a BMS product or a video camera, and we're bringing intelligence to these systems to operate and interoperate. So, for example, when a fire detector senses smoke, to make sure that it's not a false alarm, we can spin the pan-tilt zoom camera in our security and access control system to look and see is there something really going on there or not. And it can all be done with AI. It doesn't require kind of human intervention. So, the discrete subsystems in a building are important. There's also systems outside of the building that we need to be connected to. We need to be connected to the utility rate structure in a real-time pricing scenario or in a setback scenario. Like, we have to make adjustments in the BMS system to, maybe connect therefore to the elevator escalator system and slow them down 10% and raise the temperature a few degrees during this kind of immediate crisis for the utility. So there's no short answer to this one, other than, I think the industry ultimately will land on an ontology that becomes a more standard one. Right now, it's kind of every man for themselves, but we'll get there eventually.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have time to dive into cybersecurity, but I'm glad to say that we have a session later today at what time? Oh, at 1:30 in here. It's called Connected and Secure Building Automation. So for those of you who want to hear more about the cybersecurity conversation evolving around connected to buildings, we have a whole session planned on it. I couldn't do it with these guys. It would take way too long. I know John's got one more comment. Please, go ahead, John.
So on that access, and we'll go tiny bit into cybersecurity.
Just a little. We can't go
look
too
at the
deep.
integration. You really have three fail-safes, right? And we have to think about this not just from a human access, but a service-to-service and integration point. You have to have the authentication, so you actually have to know that the entity that is trying to access you is who you think it is. You have to have the authorization, which is often overlooked. Right? From a machine to machine, you really have to know, okay, even if I know what that endpoint is, what am I allowing it to do in effect in my system? And then the last piece is where AI can really help, is even if you have both of those things and something has compromised that remote endpoint, if it's over-automated without fail-safe checks, then it can inject something that makes no sense and create significant problems in the system. And so I think having that engine in the back that's saying, do all the inputs still make sense? And is it likely that these really came from the source? We have those three things that I think are going to stitch together to make that work out well.
Yeah, great. Okay, one more quick question. Yeah, go ahead, No. Thanks, Kimon.
So for the life cycle management of a building, for digital twins, I think the efficacy of a digital twin is there when you can use it for modeling and simulation, at least for what-if scenarios, and then optimize it. The technology exists. My question is, how do you see the adoption happening?
Yes, Stephen, please.
I'll jump in on that one. We do exist in a world in which value engineering is the bane of all of our existence. Really is. I mean, that's really how you just effectively kind of degrade this design concept that, of course, was supposed to deliver these promising results. That's going to continue, Neil, to be a part of the challenge, because there is a cost element associated with putting a building information model together. However, I do see promise. I'm just going to pick one just because that's the one I've used, Autodesk in particular. They're incorporating plenty of workflow tools that should otherwise compress the time that it otherwise would have taken to create a building information model in the past. It's been around for years, as Kimon indicated. But just being able to take those drawings and have, of course, the spatial relationships all be put together with your mechanical, your electrical, your structural, all that information. You've got cut sheets, PDF, all the way down to the sensor level, all the way to the device level. That takes a lot of time. And then, of course, you're bound to the entire construction process. Did I put the right submittals in, for example? So I do anticipate that with the tool set improvements that we're going to see, probably from Kimon, certainly from Autodesk, it's going to get cheaper to create these building information models. And as soon as those do get to that lower price point, I'm hoping that's the world in which those won't be value engineered out of the construction process.
That's already today, actually. That was a week that we did it. So there's a way to do it. A lot in the industry make it seem like it's complex to make BIM and digital twins. It is for certain purposes, but for our purposes here, that's the low end of the pool, and that's the opportunity. And that, by seeing it in context, to get back to your question, the way you see the digital twins, you see other systems talking to it, lighting things up with those business rules that are isolating, so you don't have 1,000 points of light. You have the one that matters to me in this place for this situation. It's kind of a dialogue that you're having. And that's how AI talks, too. You don't say, well, show me all the points, and then I'll do a dashboard and figure out. That's the old world, right? That's the opportunity, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, you guys, we're out of time. This was an awesome panel. I'd like to thank my panel. Thank you, guys. And if you all don't mind, just one more minute. We want to make a major announcement from yesterday. I'd like to ask Gus and Abe to come up here from Cochrane Supply. And we'd like to announce the winner of the Controller Showdown from yesterday. For those of you who did not attend, we had 5 vendors come and pitch their best products and services to the crowd. And then we did a QR code voting. And I'm going to let our hosts from the event, who did a fantastic job in their Elvis outfits, to announce the winner.
So our winner from yesterday for the Controller Showdown was Distech.
We want to congratulate Scott Schaefer. This is his second victory. This is Distech's second victory. Our next Controller Showdown will be in Denver in May at ControlsCon for anybody who's keeping track. So congratulations, Distech.